بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ينفعنا وزدنا علما يا رب العالمين. My dear respected brothers and elders and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, alhamdulillah, we wanted to start off our summer halaqat with the stories of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, which I generally do every year. I wanted to cover a good portion of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, because the way we're going to learn how to practice Islam is by looking at those who actually practice Islam to the highest degree, to the point that Allah gave them the certificate of radiallahu anhum wa radu an. Allah was pleased with them and they are pleased with Allah. Right? They got their certificate in the world. MashaAllah, and the Sahaba radiallahu anhum are the guiding stars of this ummah. As long as you're following them, inshallah, you'll know you'll be on deen and hidayah, inshallah. One of the first Sahaba radiallahu anhu that I want to choose from was Bilal radiallahu anhu. Okay, and this is, you guys are in for a nice ride, okay? Because in terms of the stories of Bilal radiallahu anhu, there are so many. If I wanted to, I could probably easily go from this time to Isha, because of how much there's narrated on Bilal radiallahu anhu. So we're going to condense all of that, inshallah, into a beautiful story that I wanted to give in front of everyone, and an important lesson that we'll highlight at the end, inshallah ta'ala. I don't want to get into my rant yet. We'll get near the end when we're getting close to Maghrib, inshallah. Okay, it's a very, very uplifting and enlightening story. We ask Allah ta'ala to enlighten our hearts and allow us to, inshallah, follow the path of Bilal radiallahu anhu until the day that we meet him, inshallah. Okay, so we have, first and foremost, let's talk about his name, Bilal ibn Rabah radiallahu anhu. His father, Rabah, is an Arab slave. Right, this is something that people don't commonly know. They think that both of his slaves, his parents were Abyssinian. That's not the case. His father was Arab. Okay, Bilal radiallahu anhu's father was Arab, and his mother Hamama was an Abyssinian slave. She was taken and then she was brought to Mecca. And actually, that makes what? Bilal radiallahu anhu wasn't born in Abyssinia. Bilal radiallahu anhu was born in the area of Mecca. Okay, so he was mixed. I want to make that very clear from the beginning. He's born about 25 to 30 years before the Prophet ﷺ, his prophethood. So he is just within his 25 to 30 years old when the Prophet ﷺ is sent as a prophet to all of Mecca. Okay, and this is the story that we want to highlight, inshallah. It is the story of people being defined by characteristics and not by color. Okay, it is a story that I want to make clear for everyone here, is that it's when the Arabs are, so the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Arabs were absolutely racist, right? Absolutely racist. But they weren't racist by colorism. Okay, like they're not looking at colors and saying that this person is black, this person is white, and they were racist because of that. They were racist because of what? Because of class, which is something that you and I can actually relate to. Tribe versus tribe, village versus village. That's something that we actually do today, right? It doesn't matter which color a person is. Which are they from? Dhaka? Are they from Sylhet? Right? Where are they from? That's the racism of the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So when they were racist towards Bilal and towards his mother, it wasn't because they were from Abyssinia. Abyssinia is one of the superpowers of the time. I want everyone to understand that. How could you, it's like someone saying, you American. Is that an insult? Like, it's one of the, it's leading the country and everything, even the coronavirus. But it's not really an aib, right? If someone said you were from Persia or Rome at that time, they're like, wow, thank you, Same thing if you're an Abyssinian. Wow, that's great. My country is doing great. Where did the Prophet ﷺ first send all the muhajirin, or the first migrants, towards Abyssinia? So that's why they weren't racist to Bilal because of his color or even from where he came from. They were racist because of the fact that he was a slave. Okay, so I want everyone to understand that before we get into this, because that will make everything much clearer. So Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu is a man who is a slave, and he knows how to speak. He knows how to talk. Right? He's been living as an Arab for such a long time. I think people thought that his only words he knew was ahad or ahad, right? And that's not the case here. He's been living amongst them for so long. You think he doesn't know their language? He doesn't speak. He doesn't communicate. He doesn't have a mother that's raised. We are pushing some weird narrative because of what we've seen around us, and we're projecting it to the time of the Prophet ﷺ. May Allah save us from all those things. That's why I mentioned those things in the beginning. The racism you and I are thinking about is not the racism they had. And the Bilal you and I are thinking about is not the Bilal of the history books. It's a completely different Bilal. Who is this Bilal radiallahu anhu? He's a man, mashallah, who's living, within the Arab community, but he's recognizing that they're worshipping idols, which makes absolutely no sense. This stuff is nonsense. How are you worshipping twigs and stones? And so he is thinking about life. He's looking for a solution to all of these things. So what does he find one day? Okay? Yeah, what does he find one day? When the Prophet ﷺ comes out with this beautiful message of Islam, and he hears it in the marketplace, and the only thing he hears about what Nabi ﷺ says in the marketplace is what? Allahu Ahad. And he's like, that's God. That's Allah. Allah is one. He's not millions of gods. He said, this makes no sense. So he only knows about Allah that one thing, which is what? Ahad, Ahad. Okay, so that's why you and I commonly think that Bilal radiallahu anhu's only word that he knew was what? Ahad, Ahad, because he would never stop saying Ahad, Ahad. And so who is his master at the time? Umayyah ibn Khalaf. Umayyah bin Khalaf. Umayyah bin Khalaf, he hears Bilal believing in Islam. Believing in Islam. In terms of the converts of Islam, you have Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu from the freemen. And from the first slaves of Islam that accepted was Bilal radiallahu anhu. He's literally like, you would count him basically the third person to accept Islam if you're considering it like that. To the point the Prophet ﷺ used him as dalil. When someone asked, who's following you? The Prophet ﷺ said, one hur, one free person, one abd, one Bilal. And these two are following me. This is what the Prophet ﷺ said. So Bilal radiallahu anhu is one of the first converts to Islam, and he is expressing something which is infuriating Umayyah, because Umayyah controls him by body, by property, everything, right? But he can't control his mind or his heart. The only two things that Fir'aun wishes he could control, but even in his own household, he couldn't control those things. Which is what? That you can speak your mind. You can speak your heart. And so Bilal is just staying, wherever Umayyah is eating and drinking and having a good time at home, he's like, Ahad, 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 Ahad. And he just keeps saying it. And Umayyah's like, why this? Because he knows the deen of Islam. He knows Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is going around telling people. So he's getting angry. So he says, Bilal, you have to stop this. You have to stop this. So then he doesn't go the nice guy route. He says, Bilal, come with me. So then he places an armor on Bilal and places him on the sun. Metal armor. You and I walked we walked for a long time in Hajj, right? We know how hot it gets. Okay? Walking on pebbles. Imagine that barefoot. Now imagine you had iron shoes. Imagine your entire body was covered in iron. Imagine you were just placed in the sun. Now you understand what Bilal radiallahu anhu had to go through. That's intense heat. What else did he do? He called out all of the thugs, all the gangsters of the society, all the miscreants. And he said, take Bilal, do whatever you want with him. So what they did was they tied a rope around him and they dragged him through the streets of Medina. And then what else did they do? And you know this story very famously, that he placed him on the desert sand and he put a boulder on his body. He either put him on the sand directly, so it's burning directly, or he put him on the pebbles, which is unbelievably hot. And he kept placing rock after rock and increasing the pressure so that it would burn even more. Okay? And Umayyah would keep saying to him, Deenuka Lat wal Uzza. He said, your deen is Lat and Uzza, meaning the religion of their gods. Okay? And Bilal radiallahu anhu would be hearing this from being put the armor on him, from the fact that the miscreants are dragging him through the streets, from the fact that he's put under the burning sand. In each one of these instances, while they're doing these things to him, he's saying, Ahad, 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 Ahad. He's like, and then in one place when Umayyah tells him, it's like, say your deen is Lat and Uzza. He says, Rabbi Allah. This is what I want to make clear. He can speak. Okay, he can speak. But Allah says, Rabbi Allah Ahad. He says, my Lord is Allah is one. And he says, Walau hafiztu shay'an ba'daha. He says, if I knew something else about him, I would tell you it too, but I don't know anything else. Look how careful he is to speak about Allah. How diligent he is, how careful he is. Because he's like, I don't know anything else about my Lord. So I only say the thing that I do know. I wish we had that. Because sometimes we speak out of wherever we can. Right? But Bilal radiallahu anhu is being very careful when speaking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because he knows he's my master. Got to be very careful about speaking about my master, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says this wherever, and so this Ahad, Ahad is a word that he chose to say. He kept saying it because he wanted to say it. Okay, when they pull him through the streets, Ahad, Ahad. Arm on his body, Ahad, Ahad. When he's put on the burning sand, Ahad, Ahad. And so to the point that Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu said, he said there were 7 Muslims that professed their Islam in the beginning, that made it open that they were Muslim. 7 Muslims. You know the first one, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And of course, we're excluding the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You all know that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's family accepted. They generally just don't include that. They say just who did it outside in the streets, right? Outside the home of the Prophet ﷺ. Or else Khadija radiallahu anha is clearly first. No one can top her. Inshallah, we'll cover her story. It's going to take a couple of parts. This is way too long. So the 7 Muslims that professed their Islam, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was number 2. Now these two, of course, you know, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is from Bani Hashim, right? And Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu is from Bani Tamim, or Bani Taim. I just can't remember right now. But these two had tribes that would defend them and make sure that they wouldn't go to any harm. But the other 5 didn't have that. Ammar, his mother Sumayya, radiallahu anha, Bilal radiallahu anhu, Suhaib, and Miqdad. These were all slaves, okay? None of them had any tribes to defend them. So what happened was what? When Ammar went through the same type of tragedy and agony that Bilal radiallahu anhu went through, they said, accept the religion of Lat and Uzza. And so then Ammar was forced to say it because of the pain and pressure he was going through. You and I would never be able to take that. So he actually says it, and he actually cries to the Prophet and says, Ya Rasulullah, I said it on my tongue, but my heart didn't believe it. The Prophet said, don't worry, if your life is in danger, you can say such things. And ayah came down just for Ammar radiallahu anhu. Same thing with Sumayya, same thing with Miqdad, same thing with Suhaib. The only person, Ibn Mas'ud says, everyone budged, everyone just knelt down, everyone gave up, except for Bilal. He never gave, illa Bilal, except for Bilal. They tried to break Bilal. Bilal broke them. They tried to break him. They could not break him. His endurance and his faith to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I'm not even going to let the word of kufr come on my tongue. Never. Okay? To the point that while he's going through this, the boulder's on him. Abu Bakr is walking by and he's saying, Ahad, 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 Ahad. So he's like, and he goes and inspects the situation. He goes, Umayyah, why are you killing him? Because he doesn't obey you? Doesn't he obey you? So Umayyah's like, I don't even need him. You can buy him from me. You can buy him. Go ahead. So then Abu Bakr says, name your price. He says, 5 uqiyas of gold. 5 uqiyas of gold. Okay? Uqiyah is a substantial amount. You can think of bags. 5 bags of gold. It's not cheap. Okay? You and I wish we had the type of grams, but we don't. Okay? There are different narrations, but 5 uqiyas is probably the strongest riwayah that comes. Okay? And so now Abu Bakr says, deal, no problem. I'll pay it. So Abu Bakr buys Bilal radiallahu anhu. And thereafter, while he's walking away and Bilal's walking away, he lifted the boulder off of him. Now they're both going free, right? And Umayyah's like, Bilal, he says, Abu Bakr, you fool. If you had haggled with me, if you had bargained with me, I would have given him for a single uqiyah. Just one would have been enough. And Abu Bakr turns around to him. You know what he says? He says, Wallahi, the value of this man, I would have bought him for 100. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. He's like, if you knew the value of this man, I would have bought him for 100. So when Abu Bakr does this instantly, without any mashwara, so he actually goes back to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ says, yeah, Abu Bakr, give me a share too. I want to buy Bilal too. I want some of his reward. Because that's a great ajr right there. And the Prophet ﷺ told Abu Bakr said, Ya Rasulullah, I bought him already. I'm sorry, I can't. You can't rebuy a slave, right? He freed him and everything. So now Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu buys off, he frees Bilal radiallahu anhu. And now Bilal radiallahu anhu is devoted, he's attached. Now he can learn about Allah. And now he has, alhamdulillah, a great Sayyid, a great leader, a great master, Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to teach him and instruct him about Islam. So Bilal radiallahu anhu will be with the Prophet always. And I mean it, always. He was always there. If I had to compare it, okay, if you want to compare it, the amount of time that you and I think Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu spent with Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, how much time do you think Abu Bakr spent with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? A long time. Bilal either spent that much time or even more than Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Okay, and I will explain it later on to the point that people even said that maybe Bilal is greater than Abu Bakr. That's what they used to think about him. Okay, so they would give da'wah together. The Prophet ﷺ would narrate these incidents. He's like, I used to run out of the street. I used to run out of Makkah. They used to, throw stones and hit the Prophet ﷺ with Bilal, and we used to not find food for days. Whatever he could hide under his armpit, that's the only food we had. Bilal radiallahu anhu was there at the time. Okay, this is the thing. Allahumma salli Muhammad. What we don't really realize is that Bilal radiallahu anhu, you probably, and I'm going to explain this right now, inshallah. Bilal radiallahu anhu was there in every hadith that you and I are thinking about. Okay, like, was he there at that battle? Yes, he was. Was he there at that battle? Yes, he was. Was he there? Yes, he was there. Was he at Eid? Yes, he was there. Was he, everywhere you're thinking, Bilal radiallahu anhu was there. Okay, so when they went to Medina, when they finally headed to Medina, okay, and you all know Abdullah ibn Zayd radiallahu anhu, he sees the dream. He sees the man who has a bell in his hand and a horn in his hand, right? And he's like, can I buy these things? We're looking for a way to call the Muslims to prayer. And then the guy in the dream says, I have something better than these 2 things. He said, what is it? Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, right? And then he gives the entire adhan and iqamah. So Abdullah ibn Zayd radiallahu anhu goes, he meets the Prophet ﷺ, says, Ya Rasulullah, I had this amazing dream about what to do about adhan. about how to call the Muslims to the prayer. And Umar radiallahu anhu comes out from his home. He's like, Ya Rasulullah, I heard the same exact dream. I had the same exact dream. And so now this is prophetic, right? So the Prophet hears this from Abdullah. Then he says, that's great, Abdullah. Wonderful. Allah put barakah in it. Now go bring Bilal. Go bring Bilal. Teach it to Bilal. Teach this to Bilal. فَإِنَّهُ أَنْدَى صَوْتًا. The Prophet ﷺ says, because he had the most nadi sound. The word that you and I, we normally translate this as being the loudest. He had the loudest sound. But another way of interpreting the word nadi is from like dew. You know, like in the morning, like they're really nice and it's enjoyable, right? You see, like it just, everything just feels like it's just cooled down, right? So the Prophet ﷺ said the word nadi does mean loud, but it also means the sweetest. The Prophet ﷺ says that Bilal has the sweetest sound, right? So when and you can imagine Abdullah bin Zayd is like, Ya Rasulullah, you know, I really wanted to give it, but if you say Bilal, then I will choose Bilal. Why Bilal? Why Bilal? Because Adhan is an exclusive thing to Muslims, exclusive thing for our Tawheed. No other religion in the world has Adhan. Think about it. No other religion in the world has Adhan. Everyone uses a bell, everyone uses a horn. We are the only ones that uses a human to call other humans. Right? And the only one who has the most right to call the Adhan is Bilal radiallahu anhu. Because at the time when no one was declaring Tawheed, he was saying Ahad, 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 Ahad everywhere. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said to honor his sacrifice, he's going to be the one to call Adhan. So that's why no one ever in the history of Medina would ever give Adhan if Bilal radiallahu anhu was there. No one had any right. Bilal radiallahu anhu would be 5 times prayers. Everything. Bilal radiallahu anhu would be the mu'adhin of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the official mu'adhin, and the personal assistant to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay? So now let's break this down. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one time he left his wives for a month. He left his wives for a month. There's an entire beautiful incident. I wish we had time to talk about it. Not enough time to discuss it. But the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one time he was very upset with them, so he left. Okay? He didn't tell anyone where he was. He didn't tell anyone where he was. So people were wondering, where is the Prophet ﷺ? Okay? So, you know, Sahaba were crying in the masjid. They're like, where is the Prophet? What, you know, we're so sad. He divorced all his wives. They thought he divorced everyone. Everyone's going perishan. Everyone's going crazy. So Umar radiallahu anhu says, you know what? I know who I have to find. Who does he have to find? Bilal. Because he knows that Bilal is with the Prophet ﷺ. So who's tending to the Prophet ﷺ? Is Bilal radiallahu anhu. That's why Bilal radiallahu anhu was actually at the door. So he said, if Umar radiallahu anhu came and said, I want to meet the Prophet, he said, I have to ask permission first. So Bilal will go in. No one else has access to the Prophet ﷺ. He would go in and say, Prophet ﷺ did not give permission. The Prophet ﷺ did give permission. He would be the only one who would have that right in front of all the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. When the Prophet ﷺ needs to make wudu, he's in a journey. When he needs to make wudu, who has the wudu water? Bilal radiallahu anhu. To the point that when Nabi ﷺ is done with his wudu, there's leftover wudu water. He's the one holding it, and all the Sahaba are trying to grab it from him. He has full access to that, mashallah. What else do we find? When the Prophet ﷺ would travel, who would give adhan while he's traveling? Bilal radiallahu anhu. Okay? When the Prophet ﷺ sits by himself, who is the one who's watching the gate? Bilal radiallahu anhu. When the Prophet ﷺ enters the Kaaba, at the time of Fath Makkah, who is the one that he brings with him inside? Bilal radiallahu anhu. No one else had that. Not even Abu Bakr or Umar radiallahu anhu. The Prophet ﷺ absolutely loved Bilal. He said he also enters as well. Okay, who distributes the sadaqah? Bilal radiallahu anhu. Who is in charge of the finances of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? The finances. Bilal radiallahu anhu. Who when the Prophet was doing fundraiser, who's like the committee member on the side to make sure he's collecting? Bilal radiallahu anhu. He's there. He's with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's holding he's literally holding his jubba out. He's like collecting everything in there with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Najashi actually sends 3 staffs as a gift to the Prophet ﷺ. 3 staffs. He gives one, the Prophet ﷺ gives one to Ali, one to Umar, because he's Umar, and then he gives the last one to Bilal. So Bilal, this is yours. And so that whatever they would go out for Eid, who would be in front of the Prophet ﷺ leading the procession? Bilal radiallahu anhu with the staff, inshallah. This is how much he was involved. That's what I'm saying. And Eid day, there's no adhan or iqamah. What is Bilal doing there? Just because the Prophet always wanted to keep him close. Always wanted to keep him close. This is how attached he was. How dedicated he was to the Prophet ﷺ. There's a beautiful incident called the Night of Ta'aris. Ta'aris is an incident where the Sahaba radiallahu anhu were returning from a long battle for like a month. They were fighting. And they were all exhausted. And they needed to sleep. It's like tahajjud time. And they're exhausted. So all of them go to sleep. The Prophet ﷺ tells someone, he says, who is ready to wake us up for Fajr? Because this is critical time. You can't sleep at that time. It's like 3 a.m. You're going to miss Fajr. Who the heck thinks after watching like all the way up to 2 a.m. of Netflix, they're going to wake up for Fajr? Right? That's impossible. They were doing it fi sabilillah, jihad fi mashallah. And they were worried about waking up for Fajr. So then the Prophet ﷺ says, who will wake us up? So who raises his hand? Bilal radiallahu anhu. He says, Ya Rasulullah, I'll do it. So Bilal radiallahu anhu actually stands in tahajjud. But then what happens is what? He also falls asleep. And so this is one of the only times where the Prophet ﷺ, I think only about 2 times, and he's actually, it's for teaching, right? To teach us what happens when you miss Fajr. Because it's a human thing. You can't control how much you sleep. You can't control when you sleep, okay? You can't control when you sleep. So that's what you should work on. If you need 6-7 hours, then make sure you're sleeping a little ahead, inshallah, then you can manage it. But we don't do that. We just pretend like we'll sleep at 2 a.m. and watch whatever movies and then see the movies in our dreams and shaitan is playing with us. We're actually doing Spider-Man swinging around and then we think we're going to wake up for Fajr. No one's going to wake up, okay? So Bilal radiallahu anhu knocks out. And so then the Prophet was the first one to wake up because the sun is hitting his face. And the Prophet says, there's a shaitan in this valley. And then they literally get up. He's like, everyone get up, get up, get up. And everyone gets up. And they all go and they remake their Fajr right away. Then the Prophet goes to Bilal. He's like, Bilal, you need to say, you're going to wake us up. Bilal's answer is amazing. He goes and says, he says, Ya Rasulullah, said the one that took your soul took my soul. He says, the one who took your soul took my soul too. And the Prophet says, Sadaqta. He said, you spoke the truth, Bilal. Right? No one can control that. Right? It just happens. MashaAllah. He's so close to the Prophet ﷺ, so close to the Prophet ﷺ, to the point that the first man to see the Prophet ﷺ every morning is Bilal radiallahu anhu. Because why? Who has to wake him up for Fajr? Bilal radiallahu anhu. Who's in the masjid? Bilal radiallahu anhu. Whose house is right next to the masjid? Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, right? Bilal radiallahu anhu was there. So he would actually go normally and he would just lightly just tap on the door or tap on the thing and say, Ya Rasulullah, Fajr, Fajr, Fajr. The Prophet would be awake most of the time. He would be awake most of the time, okay? And you and I know that there was one time though, Prophet was asleep. So Bilal radiallahu anhu was kind of panicking. He's like, people are going to come. Imam Sahib's not here. What are we going to do, right? Like, I don't want to lead the salah, right? Like, so then he's like, he goes to the door. The Prophet says, As-salatu khairum minan nawm. As-salatu khairum minan nawm. He says, salah is better than sleep. Salah is better than sleep. And then the Prophet actually wasn't asleep. He comes out the door. He's like, Bilal, who told you to do that? And then the Prophet, he's like, I thought you were asleep, so I decided to do it. The Prophet said, this is a good addition to Fajr. Add it to the Fajr. Bilal has a sunnah there. He adds a sunnah there. If the adhan in general is not his sunnah, then you can say khasan, the Fajr adhan is his sunnah. MashaAllah. Okay? To the point the Prophet loved his adhan so much that if they had a very difficult day, they're traveling for so long, the Prophet would say to Bilal, Arihna ya Bilal, Arihna ya Bilal. Give us comfort, Bilal. Call the adhan. Call the adhan. We love your adhan. We want to hear it. Okay? He absolutely loved Bilal radiallahu anhu's adhan. This is how amazing of a person he was. To the point when the Prophet when Bilal radiallahu finished his adhan, the Prophet say, whoever says misla hada, whoever says like this person, whoever says like Bilal, dakhal al-jannah, he'll enter Jannah. Okay? That does not just mean, by the way, we should also have a habit, and I'm trying to make this habit again, I try to instill in people, that when the adhan goes, we should be silent. We should actually respond to the adhan with that respect and honor that Bilal radiallahu anhu would have. How much would he value the adhan? That's how much you and I should value the adhan. When we hear it, we should be silent. Because why? Because you can easily respond to it. But the real person that will enter Jannah is that when you have the internal state like Bilal. When you're doing it like Bilal radiallahu anhu would do it. That's when your adhan will be counted, inshallah ta'ala. We ask Allah for tawfiq. When you hear Allahu Akbar, Allah is the greatest. La ilaha illallah, there's none worthy of worship but Him. Muhammadur Rasulullah, that's my messenger, alayhi salatu wasalam. That's how we should give adhan. Okay? So now, we also get sunnahs from Bilal radiallahu anhu as well for adhan. What do we find? Bilal radiallahu anhu, there was one woman, she said, she was from the tribe of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Bani Najjar, in Medina. She said that Bilal radiallahu anhu, he would give adhan from my rooftop. Because my house was the tallest house in all of Medina. And so he would actually get up to there and start giving adhan. That's why the Muslims started building minarets to go even higher, to reach into the higher place. Because why? Because the amplification of the sound is actually recommended, right? Why do we put our fingers in the ears when we give adhan? Because Bilal radiallahu anhu did it. That's his sunnah too. So because he did it, we do it as well. And I see brothers that just put their hands down to the side. I'm like, what? You don't like the sunnah of Bilal? Is your ears that dirty? You need a Q-tip or something? I can give you a Q-tip. Just put your fingers in your ears. God, I don't know what's wrong with people. Unfortunately, we don't realize that this is from the sunnah of Bilal radiallahu anhu. It's something he established. You don't think it's good enough to follow? The Sahaba of the Prophet are not good enough to follow? May Allah give us all tawfiq. So many ayats were revealed for Bilal radiallahu anhu. So many things were revealed for him. I don't have enough time to enumerate these things. Whenever you read the ayah in Surah Al-Kahf though, وَاصْبِرْ نَفْسَكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ When you read that ayah, also Bilal. It said, be patient with those who call their Lord night and day, day and night. Bilal radiallahu was someone who called Allah day and night, night and day, because why? Adhan, right? MashaAllah. He was one of them, MashaAllah. Okay? The Prophet ﷺ would praise Bilal and say so many great things about him. He says, people desire Jannah. We all desire Jannah. Ishtaqatil jannatu ila sarasa. Jannah desires three people though. Ali wa Ammar wa Bilal. Jannah desires Ali, Ammar and Bilal. Jannah wants Bilal to come. Jannah wants Bilal to come. The Prophet ﷺ said, Bilal Sayyidul Mu'adhdhinina Yawm al-Qiyamah. The leader of all the Mu'adhdhins on the Day of Judgment is Bilal radiallahu anhu. This is what the Prophet ﷺ, it's a weaker narration. It's something that's reported from the Prophet ﷺ. Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu used to say, Bilal Sayyiduna. He used to say, Bilal is our master. Bilal is our master. Umar radiallahu anhu would say Abu Bakr Sayyiduna wa a'taqa Sayyidana. Umar radiallahu anhu would say, Abu Bakr is our leader. And he freed our leader, Bilal radiallahu anhu. To the point that Umar radiallahu anhu would say, whenever he would praise Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he would say, and he would bring Bilal, like, Wahada Bilal. This is Bilal. You know when you're trying to show off to like your relatives, like, son, come here. Oh, my son here, mashallah, he got the PhD, got the doctor, mashallah, Maulana, mashallah, mashallah. And you're trying. So whenever Umar radiallahu anhu wanted to brag, he'd bring who? Bilal, come. He said, this is one of the hasanas of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. One of the good deeds, one of the amazing good deeds of Bilal of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Okay, the Prophet one time came to Bilal. After waking up for Fajr and everything. The Prophet brought Bilal. He said, Bilal, why do I hear your footsteps in Jannah? Why do I hear your footsteps in Jannah? And then the Prophet he explains like the entire image of Jannah, what happened in Jannah, and at the end Bilal radiallahu anhu says, amazing thing that Bilal radiallahu anhu says to me. It's like, he could say, I suffered in Makkah. I went through mujahada. I went through such sacrifice. Right? Those are things you can brag about. Honestly speaking, if you don't deserve Jannah from that, I don't know like what will get you Jannah, right? That's amazing sacrifice. But he goes and says, I don't know, but I do remember that after Adhan, I pray 2 rakats. And after I make wudu, I pray 2 rakats. So I consider that a haqq of Allah on me, a right on Allah on me. That's why I do. And that's all. And the Prophet said, that's the reason. SubhanAllah, you're so lucky he didn't say that I was put on the burning sand. And the boulder was on me, and now, because you and I could never copy that. Bilal radiallahu anhu was thinking a lot ahead, mashallah. Like he was thinking about the future of the ummah. If I give this opinion, maybe it will be bad for us, mashallah. This is just in the fikr of us. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu's son was Ibn Umar. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu's son, like the son of Umar, right? His own son, meaning Umar radiallahu anhu's grandson, his name was what? Bilal, right? Bilal radiallahu anhu. Sahaba radiallahu anhu named their children Bilal. Many of them named their children Bilal. You can write a book on it. Right? And so one person actually praised Bilal, the grandson of Umar radiallahu anhu. They said, Bilalu ibn Umar, khayru Bilal. They said that the Bilal of Ibn Umar is the best Bilal. Right? Ibn Umar was there. He got so mad. He said, Kazab, you're a liar. He said, Bilalu Rasulillah, khayru Bilal. He said, the Bilal of Rasulullah is the best Bilal. Don't ever say such a thing. Okay? So now what we find is what? Bilal radiallahu anhu, he participated in every battle. Wherever you'd find the Prophet ﷺ, Bilal radiallahu anhu was there. One notable part was in Badr. When the enemy of Islam, Umayyah ibn Khalaf, who was the master of Bilal in Makkah, they find him on the battlefield. Bilal sees him. And so now Umayyah on that battlefield, he didn't want to come. He really didn't want to come. Basically, his friend threw coals at his house. And Umayyah said, what are you throwing coals in my house for? He said, because you're a woman, you need to go to the kitchen and start cooking. It's a very offensive thing to say today, of course, because of our tendencies. But it's basically like someone throws a skirt at home and says, whatever. So, but this is how he insulted Umayyah. So Umayyah's like, no, I'm going to the battlefield. And when he got on the battlefield, he's like, I totally regret being here because they're losing, right? So he's actually trying to retreat and flee. So he finds Abdurrahman, who was his boy, who was his friend from the time of Jahiliyyah. So he said, Abdurrahman, or Abdullah, he calls him a different name. And he goes and says, can you give me protection? I need protection on this day. So he tries to hide behind Abdurrahman. But who sees him? Bilal radiallahu anhu. Okay. Now I want to make this clear. A lot of people have a lot of issues with this. Like they're like, why didn't Bilal just forgive him and stuff? Badr is not the place for that type of thing. Badr is what? That Allah vanquished all the leaders of kufr. Okay. No leader other than Abu Sufyan, who Allah destined Islam for. No one else survived on that day. Abu Jahl died. Right? That's the biggest one that we know, right? Bilal radiallahu doesn't go and say, when he sees Umayyah, he doesn't go and say, that was my master, kill him because he did this to me in Makkah. He goes and says, Hada Ratsul Kufr. He said, this is the leader of Kufr. He's not fighting. So this is the thing. People get confused. They're like, did Bilal do revenge on himself? He wasn't doing vengeance for himself. He was doing it because what? This person's against Islam. He's literally, he's given up his revenge. He's not doing it for vengeance. Or else he would have said, this is my master from before. All Muslims come and jump him. You think Muslims would wait? They would take out that guy real quick. But he goes and says, this is the leader of Kufr. For the sake of Islam, take him out. That's what he wanted. So he goes and says, I will not be saved today if you don't take him out today. So all the Muslims actually come and finish Umayyah ibn Khalaf. Okay? This is not the day for the protection of the leaders of the Kuffar. Abdurrahman ibn Auf actually didn't do the right thing. When he tried to defend Umayyah, it wasn't the right thing to do. What Bilal did was the right thing, because Allah Ta'ala wanted to vanquish the kafirin on that day. So Bilal actually was in line with the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Bilal understood that. He understood who Umayyah was. Okay? And so this is what we mean when we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase the honor of a slave who forgives. If you forgive, mashallah, Allah Ta'ala will give you more honor. To the point that you get vengeance in the most halal way. Not saying you're gonna kill your guys, relax, but like you'll get your vengeance in the right way, in a way that you didn't even need to sacrifice your own dignity. Inshallah ta'ala. Okay? And now if you think Abdurrahman was mad at him, he wasn't. When Prophet ﷺ put two people together in a brotherhood, he put Bilal and Abdurrahman al-Auf as brothers. Okay? And so Abdurrahman loved Bilal so much to the point that he actually gave his sister in marriage to Bilal. So Bilal radiallahu anhu, his wife was the sister of Abdurrahman ibn Auf. Okay? There was actually one guy, there's a side story, one guy who he was really close to Bilal and he really wanted to get married. So then he went to the tribe of Abdurrahman, or one of the tribes of the Muslims, and he goes and says, I'm Bilal's brother. Mashallah, Bilal's such a great guy. Do you have a woman for me too? Can I get married too? He's like, can I get married? And so we have to first verify if you're actually Bilal's brother, because they love Bilal. If he says he's Bilal's brother, they're going to marry him off real quick. Okay? So then they actually, they bring Bilal. Bilal says, I'm Bilal. Yes, this is like my brother, mashallah, we're really like so-and-so, this and this. But he said, but this guy's a really bad guy. He's like, you traitor, you. He's like, this guy's a bad guy. His character's terrible, this and that. If you want to marry him, that's up to you, okay? I don't condone, I don't recommend this guy, okay? So he goes and tells him that, but then subhanAllah, this tribe actually comes back to Bilal and says, look, if he's related to you, we're marrying him. Because that's how much we love you. This is how much acceptance he received from the Muslimin in general. That's how much they love Bilal radiallahu anhu, mashallah. Okay? He was exceptionally humble though. Exceptionally humble. To the point when I talked about before, people started they said that because Bilal was always with the Prophet ﷺ, even Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu didn't have those opportunities. So they started to say that Bilal is greater than Abu Bakr. To Bilal. And Bilal radiallahu anhu would listen to this. And he'd go and say, why are people saying that I'm better than Abu Bakr? Right? He said that I'm only one of his good deeds. He's so humble. When people used to praise him so much, because what an amazing guy. Really, what an amazing guy, right? He used to go and say, I'm just a slave. And now I was a slave and now I'm a slave of Allah. That's all I am. So humble, mashallah, Bilal radiallahu anhu was. So now a couple, just 2-3 more stories, inshallah. When the Prophet ﷺ conquers Makkah, right? It is now the time where the adhan is called in Medina. And now the Prophet ﷺ needs to start the adhan in Makkah. Okay? So now he has to choose from all of his Sahaba, 10,000 of them. He has all these Sahaba to choose from. So he starts to look around, survey them. He goes, he looks at Abu Bakr, he looks at Umar, Uthman, Ali. These are all like notable Qurayshi people. They're from Quraysh. You're going to choose someone, you should choose a Qurayshi, right? Or maybe you want to choose an Ansari so their hearts don't feel upset. Maybe you want to choose a Muhajir. Maybe you want to choose this person or that person, right? You have so many options here. Who do you choose to call the adhan? So the Prophet ﷺ, who was chosen, you and I know, he chose Bilal. Because why? Because the Prophet ﷺ wants to remind us that it doesn't matter who your tribe was, it doesn't matter what your race is, it doesn't matter where you came from, it matters about your sacrifice. How much did you sacrifice to get up for Fajr? How much did you sacrifice to come to the masjid? Your sacrifice is the most important thing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because why? Because some people get here real easy, and you didn't make any sacrifice. Or a person literally struggles to get here, and that struggle is more valuable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes a person gives $100 and they only have $100. That is a major sacrifice. So Allah, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam chose the one that when he was calling Ahad, Ahad, when there was no adhan, he decided he's able to call Ahad, Ahad again on top. Right? So then what does the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam do? He says, get on top of the Kaaba. Get on top of the Kaaba. Because Bilal radiallahu anhu, before anyone rejected idol worship, he was the first person to reject idol worship. And we don't worship the house of Allah. We do not worship the house of Allah. Who do we worship? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam shows, this building is just a building. You can get on top of it. And this crushes, and there are so many benefits to picking Bilal radiallahu anhu. Racism, all these things were extinguished. Just the Prophet was able to eliminate all these things to the point that some of the new Muslims actually started to say, why is Bilal, They just accepted Islam at the conquest of Mecca. So they said that I wish my father, I'm so lucky my father wasn't alive to see this. I'm so lucky my father wasn't alive to see this. That a slave would be on top of the Kaaba and calling this. Again, they were racist against slaves, right? They had an issue with slaves. So then the ayah of Quran was revealed. Ya ayyuhan nas inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha. Allah Ta'ala reveals this ayah. All mankind, we created you from a man and a woman. We made you different tribes and communities so that you can know each other. But the person who has the most honor by Allah is the one that has the most taqwa. Allah Ta'ala is indirectly referring to Bilal radiallahu anhu. One of the most honorable people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Bilal radiallahu anhu. MashaAllah. So now finally what happens is ultimately we all know that the time at the death of the Prophet ﷺ was one of the most tragic times. And so for a man who spent his entire life with the Prophet ﷺ, in any instant, he'd be watching him while he sleeps, he'd be watching him while awake, he'd be with him. When the death of the Prophet ﷺ came to him, the news reached him, it completely broke him down. It completely broke him down. He actually said, I wish I never had to live to see this day. I wish I never lived to see this day. And to the point that when he tried to give adhan again, he could not. He just started to break down because of the emotional stress and the anxiety of losing the Prophet ﷺ. So now he's completely out of commission. They choose another muazzin to give the adhan. And now Bilal actually goes to Abu Bakr. He says, Abu Bakr, the Prophet ﷺ said that the greatest of the a'mal is to go out and fight in the path of Allah. Let me go out and fight in the path of Allah. Now Abu Bakr listens to this. He goes and says, Bilal, look, I've gotten old. I need you. Don't leave. And then, and he would say this multiple times. And Bilal will ask him over and over. It's like, please let me go. I want to fight in the path of Allah. I want to get the highest statuses. Because he has a goal in mind. What is the goal? I have to get a house next to the Prophet ﷺ. If I'm not doing everything on the highest level, I'm not going to get there. So he's thinking about that. So he says, I got to go fight in the path of Allah. I'm no use here. Let me go. So now he actually meets Abu Bakr on Jumu'ah day. And while everyone's coming to Jumu'ah, Bilal goes to Abu Bakr and says, Abu Bakr, didn't the Prophet ﷺ say this? That whoever goes in the path of Allah, this and that. And then he goes and says, Abu Bakr, did you free me for yourself? If you freed me for yourself, you can keep me here. But if you freed me for Allah, you can't keep me here. So what is Abu Bakr going to say? So he says, okay, you can go. So Bilal actually goes out to Sham. He goes out to the area of greater Syria, right? And he goes towards that area and he's fighting in the path of Allah for so many years, right? From basically when Abu Bakr was Khalifa, all the way went to Umar becomes Khalifa. So when Umar becomes Khalifa, about the 13th year of Hijrah, so he's been fighting for about 10 something years, Umar actually conquers Sham, right? They allow Umar to come in, a famous incident, right? So now Umar hasn't seen who for so long. He hasn't seen Bilal for so long. He sees him, he gets so happy, elated, excited. MashaAllah, now all the Sahaba are also coming into Sham, right? They join with Umar radiallahu. They're like, Umar, tell Bilal to give adhan. Give adhan. This is probably the first, if you can argue it, that this is probably the first adhan in the area of Quds, the third holiest place in Islam. Okay, so they're telling Bilal, go give adhan. So Bilal radiallahu started to give adhan. Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, Ashhadu la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. When he starts that part, all the Sahaba break down in tears. These men that, mashallah, they've been toughened through battle and sacrifice. When they hear the name Muhammad, they just start crying till their beards become soaked in tears. Their beautiful black beards became gray and white now. They're so old now, and they still remember those good old days. When Bilal used to call the adhan every day, we used to come out to meet the Prophet ﷺ. So now finally, the last story that we want to give, okay? And this is, by the way, Bilal gives adhan then where? Makkah, Medina, and Quds. All the three holy places of Islam, he gave adhan. It's his sunnah. Now the millions and millions of adhans that have been happening, and billions of adhans that have been happening, all go back to who? Bilal radiallahu anhu, okay? So now the Bilal radiallahu anhu receives a dream. He receives a dream. Some scholars have affirmed this narration, and I love this narration. It's a beautiful narration that, mashallah, Mullah Zakaria rahimahullah ta'ala, he narrates it as well. He sees a dream. He sees the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ comes to the dream of Bilal radiallahu anhu, and he goes and says, Ma hadhi al-jaffa ya Bilal. He goes and says, oh Bilal, why are you being so rough? Why are you being so rough? Why are you being so mean, Bilal? He said, isn't it ana laka an tazurana? Isn't it time for you to visit us? How long has it been, Bilal? Come. So Bilal wakes up so distressed. He packs his bags immediately. He starts heading to Medina. First time in so many years he's come back to Medina. Okay? And he comes to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ, breaks down. he completely breaks down at the grave of the Prophet ﷺ. His master and our master ﷺ, he's there and he's crying his eyes out. Then what happens is Hassan and Hussein radiallahu anhuma come to meet him. These are the grandsons of the Prophet ﷺ. He hugs and kisses them. He loves them so much because they remind him of who? The Prophet ﷺ. So then they say, Bilal, please give adhan one more time. Just one more time, Bilal. Just one more time for all of us. So Bilal radiallahu anhu says, okay, fine, I'll do it. So he gets back onto his position. He starts to say the adhan and people are listening. They're like, who is that? Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. We remember it. It has been that long, right? It's like, it can't be, it can't be. And then they hear Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Shahadu la ilaha illallah. They're like, it is Bilal, it is Bilal. And they're all becoming elated and happy. Then Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah comes and people literally start to rush out of their homes. The women leave their homes and come outside. And the men start rushing out. They all come to the masjid. They're like, Abu Isa Rasulullah, as the Prophet ﷺ become revived, is he alive again? They're so happy. They thought the Prophet ﷺ came alive again. And so they see and they realize, they see Bilal giving adhan. And then they become so disheartened. They said there was no Saturday in Medina after the death of the Prophet ﷺ. That was the saddest day of Medina. Everyone was back in tears again. Because they felt like Nabi ﷺ came alive again and he went away again. They felt such emotion and sadness. And that was the last time Bilal actually gives adhan in Medina and he heads off. He goes back to Sham. He wants to live there, and at his passing, his wife goes and says, Wa huznah. She says, what grief, what sadness, we're losing you. He was a great husband, mashallah, a great warrior, a great mu'adhin, a great family man, a great everything. Bilal was a great everything. And she's saying, Wa huznah, we're losing you, Bilal. And then he goes and says, Wa farha. He's like, wife, don't say that. Today, what happiness. What happiness. He goes to Ghadan nalqa Muhammadan wa hizba. Ghadan nalqa Muhammadan wa hizba. He goes and says, tomorrow I will finally meet Muhammad and his companions. I've been waiting for this day. Why do you think I went out fi sabilillah? I thought they would take my life. None of them had the courage to do so. I wanted to get my life taken so I could be shaheed, so I can meet the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's like, Ghadan nalqa Muhammadan wa hizba. So he lived his life just trying to be in the service of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he wanted to make sure that his death would be what? He was also be in the service of the Prophet ﷺ. Now, mashallah, and Bilal passes away either in the 18th year of Hijrah or the 20th year of Hijrah. May Allah be pleased with him and pleased with all the Sahaba. I want to ask this question to everyone. What is the only thing you and I probably knew of Bilal before we started this bayan? I'm going to call it out that he was black. That was the only thing you and I knew. Okay? And I'm not dismissing the fact that this story shows you racial equality. It shows you the beauty of Islam, that doesn't matter where you come from. I'm not denying all those things. But there's a serious problem if we couldn't get past the skin of Bilal radiallahu anhu. That was literally the only thing you knew about him. Did anyone know that he was such a mahbub to the Prophet ﷺ? How beloved he was? How amazing he was with the Prophet ﷺ? These are things that you and I should be talking about. We should be caring about. But the thing is that America has really twisted our minds. The only thing we can see is what? He's black. And we also put this inferiority complex. Oh, because, wow, he's so great because he was black. It's not because he was black. It's because he was a lover of Prophet ﷺ. That's how the story was told for centuries. And when we come to America now in the 21st century, all we think about is the race card. There's something seriously wrong with that. And I wanted everyone to understand that. That's why I didn't even mention his color I didn't talk about it. Because it's not important to the story. That they loved him because he was Bilal. Not because they were trying to put up a guy from Abyssinia. Sahaba weren't like that. They loved him because why? Because he was a person who loved the Prophet ﷺ. We need to remember these things. He wasn't a lazy man. He was an active man. He made tremendous changes. So the real question I want everyone to ask is what? That, why don't we have many hadiths from him? Why don't we have many hadiths from him? If you're counting all the hadiths, Imam Dhahabi said, you only get about 44 hadiths from Bilal. Only 44 hadiths. Compare that to like Abu Huraira, 5,000, Ibn Umar, 2,000, Aisha, 2,000. Why do we get like that many from Bilal radiallahu anhu? It's the same reason why we don't have many narrations from Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhu as well. Why is that? Because they didn't spend their time talking about hadith. They spent their time living hadith. That's why all the hadiths you and I just heard were all things about Bilal. He didn't narrate them. People just talked about him. Because he was just so amazing that people just talked about him. And that's what I wish that we were today. We talk about this role model, alayhi salatu salam. These were people that were living Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They were living his life. I wish that we could say, I wish I could point to anyone in this room or anyone, anytime, inshallah. I don't want to pick on anyone here. I pick on myself all the time. right? This was a man dedicated to Sunnah. I wish I could just say that if you want to see an example of the Prophet ﷺ, look at this man. Look at this Musalli. Look at this person. But we have all these weaknesses and sicknesses in our own hearts. We don't do these things at all. We just want to hear a good story and not practice these things. So what we want to do, inshallah, is make sure we don't let the name and the life of Bilal radiallahu anhu die. You need to look deeper than the 2 millimeters of skin. This is how deep skin is. Just 2 millimeters, and that's all we care about. Bilal radiallahu anhu didn't care about what people said about him. He didn't care about what people talked about him. People did insult him because he was a slave. Did that bother him? People did try and make him change his religion. Did that bother him? Nothing bothered him. He had thick skin. So more than just the 2 millimeters of skin, you and I have to have thicker skin. Don't care what people are saying, because people will continue to say. You remove the racism from your heart. You remove the flames of racism from your own heart. So what's going to happen is what? That hate will die in a vacuum. There's no fan, there's no fire, there's no fuel to flame the fire. There's nothing that will increase that flame. By you not being racist, by me not being racist, by not even talking about it, by letting it go, by forgiving and forgoing, you'll become like Bilal radiallahu anhu, who became a champion. Allah made him a champion because he learned that, look, it's just about your struggle and sacrifice. Don't care about what other people are saying. You and I need to become like that, inshallah. So keep practicing and doing, inshallah. Keep living Islam, inshallah. Keep struggling. I know, mashallah, the Fajr game is hard. It's hard for me too. It's hard for everyone. One day it'll become easy. Look at how dedicated Bilal radiallahu anhu was. Before even the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was in the masjid, mashallah. Right? There's so much you can learn from him that, look, keep practicing and doing your Islam. Then eventually Allah Ta'ala will give you a chance to raise your voice for him too, inshallah. The same way Bilal was given the opportunity when he was in the streets of Makkah, that no one was listening to him. MashaAllah, now everyone's listening to him, giving the adhan. And now everyone till Qiyamah will be giving him ajr. We ask Allah for that type of tawfiq. We ask Allah to become role models of Islam, become true people of Islam, to live the legacy of Bilal radiallahu anhu, to become a person that respects Bilal radiallahu anhu's lineage and his sacrifice and his struggles. And He allow us, inshallah, to live the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That way we connect with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Jannah al-Firdaus, inshallah ta'ala. I think it's all tawfiq. Jazakumullah khairan. I know it went a bit longer than normal. It just, mashallah, the story was just, to me, it's just one of the most beloved stories to me. I love it so much, and I ask Allah Ta'ala that He give us that love and muhabba for Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salam ala ashmiyya wa salim wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين واغفر لنا يا مولانا إنك غفور رحيم ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا وأخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملت على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين يا أرحم الراحمين يا أكرم الأكرمين يا ذا القوة المنين يا من نصر الراحمين والمساكين يا Allah. Allah, please fix our hearts, Ya Allah. Please forgive our hearts, Ya Allah. Forgive us for all the sins that we've done, Ya Allah. Lord, forgive us for all the racism in our hearts, Ya Allah. All the hatred in our hearts, Ya Allah. For all the bigotry in our hearts, Ya Allah. For all the nifaq, the hypocrisy in our hearts, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, please, Ya Allah, remove this hatred from our hearts, Ya Rahman Rahimeen. Ya Allah, please make us pure ummatis of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, please make us role models like the way Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was a role model, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Ya Allah, please make us examples like Nabi Alayhi Wasallam on this earth, Ya Rahman Rahimeen. Ya Allah, please, Ya Allah, make us examples like Bilal radiallahu anhu, Ya Rahman Rahimeen. Ya Allah, allow us to raise your kalima, Ya Allah. Allow us to raise your deen, Ya Allah. Allow us to raise the kalima, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah throughout the world, Ya Rahman Rahimeen. Ya Allah, we ask you, Allah, to make it easy for us, Ya Allah. Allah, after Ramadan, Ya Allah, life has become so difficult, Ya Allah. It's become so hard, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, if you don't help us, Ya Allah, who will help us, Ya Allah? The same way, Ya Allah, you kept this community in afiyah, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, please, Ya Allah, we ask you to purify our hearts, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, to become people that will worship you, Ya Allah, the way you deserve to be worshipped, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, we ask you for tawfiq and hidayah, Ya Allah, for our family and friends, Ya Allah. Allah, save us from this virus, Ya Allah. Save us from riots and protests, Ya Allah. Save them from all the fitna and fasad of this dunya and akhirah, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, allow us, Ya Rahman Rahimeen, to find nur in our qubur, Ya Rahman Rahimeen. For all the Muslims that passed away, Ya Allah, give them nur in the qubur, Ya Rahman Rahimeen. Ya Allah, for all the non-Muslims in our lives, Ya Allah, give them hidayah of Islam, Ya Rabbal Alameen. That we ask you, Allah, Ya Allah, that we ask you, Ya Allah, that we can be next to Nabi Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam when we raise on the day of judgment, Ya Allah. We ask you to drink from the Hawd al-Kawthar of Nabi Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Ya Allah. We ask you to be resurrected with Bilal and Umar and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Ya Allah, we don't have any amal that's close to them, Ya Allah. We don't have any amal that's close to them, Ya Allah. Our good deeds are not even close, Ya Allah. But we love them, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, doesn't the love count, Ya Allah? Doesn't the love count, Ya Allah? We love talking about them, Ya Allah. Please, Ya Rahman Rahimeen, connect us with these people on Qiyamah, Ya Rahman Rahimeen. Connect us in Jannah al-Firdaus, Ya Rahman Rahimeen. Put us with Habib Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Ya Allah, in Jannah al-Firdaus, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Send us back to Hajj and Makkah and Medina, Ya Rahman Rahimeen. The Haramain Sharifain every year, Ya Allah. Allah, please, Ya Allah, open up Hajj again for the Ummah, Ya Rahman Rahimeen. Ya Allah, this is a test from you, Ya Allah. We'll be patient in the test, Ya Allah. Give us the ajr and reward, Ya Allah, of Hajj every single year, Ya Rahman Rahimeen. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله.